You guys want to know what my top viewed TikTok video is? I can't really say it went viral because I don't know what number it takes to get there. I'm pretty sure I'm not there. I think you gotta hit like at least 1 million for it to be considered viral. I feel like it's a big number. Anyways, my top video got like 237,000 views as of the time of this recording. And it's fascinating to me which of all the videos I made on TikTok became the most popular. I find it very entertaining. So I thought I would give you guys a glimpse into that if you're not in the TikTok world. So in today's video, I'm going to show you my top 6 viewed TikTok videos with my reactions. Topics are going to kind of balance a little bit because I spend most of my time on TikTok doing like educational and clinical type of discussions in regards to like acute care type of patients in the ICU. So we're going to talk about how to position your hypoxic patient. One of them is going to talk about calcium channel blocker overdoses, and one of them will talk about shock. I think you will be surprised which of those got the most views. So that'll be the last one I'll present to you. And then on the other side of things, just a few like creative things that I did. I made one that kind of highlighted the challenges of being a mom and being in NP school. And my gosh, the feedback and the reactions I got from people made me cry. It's so powerful. And then I'm going to show you one that I made very recently about resume, like secret tips that I didn't know. And it has been well received. And my most cringeworthy video of all time. So stick around to the end to see what that is. It is short, it is brief, and we will all be in the same state of awkward embarrassment when we watch it together. If we haven't met yet, my name is Bree. I'm an RN, NP mentor, interview strategist, content creator, and educator. Welcome to the channel. Okay, here's my TikTok account. I haven't been super active on there lately. I need to get back on here, but I balance these like some clinical and some professional stuff so you didn't get overwhelmed with like bouncing around with different academic topics that get a little heavy on here. But so my going from least viewed to top viewed in order, we start with this one about resume mistakes, which is interesting to me that it's gotten so many views because it's one of the more recently posted videos. But this one is talking about mistakes that I see commonly for people who are sending me resumes, nurses and NPs. So let's watch this one. Okay, if you are an RN or an NP and you are looking for a job right now, this one's for you. There's like something that happens in January. Everybody's like, I am done with this job. It's time for something new. And there are a bunch of NPs in particular who graduate in December. So business is hopping right now. If you don't know, I'm a nurse practitioner. Oh, I touch my face so much.
And I'm hopping right now. Everybody is looking for help in interviewing and sending out resumes. And so I thought I'm going to start clustering my material on all my platforms, between the YouTubes and the lives and the TikToks.
Sounds so pretentious.
And this week's topic is about resume mistakes that I see commonly. And we have to start by talking about the ginormous conspiracy theory that may be preventing your resume from being seen by human eyes. That will blow your mind. I was like, mind blown. Okay, I'm a little bit dramatic, but it's still, I was like, what the hell? Nobody told me about this. And that is the applicant tracking system, or the ATS, which is a software program that HR company, like most companies use these type of software programs to help weed out resumes. So you submit it, it is not seen by a human being until it makes it past the ATS. You got to break the code, you got to get past that.
It's shocking for me to figure that out.
In HR or the hiring, whatever part of the team. These programs are customized, so they are looking for certain keywords. They are looking for job titles and job skills. And if they don't see them in your resume, boom, you out. You're rejected. Your resume will never see the light of day. If they do see them, they will flag you as a potential candidate. And then the more like relevant buzzwords that it is programmed to look for that you have in your resume, the higher you rise to the top as a qualified candidate. So it is crucial that you include the right words in your resume.
Yeah, so that one, I recorded that one because I was just so completely mind blown when I learned about what the ATS is. Okay, so the next one is going to be a clinical one talking about how to position your patient. This is one that I recorded during COVID. So anyways, let me just show it to you and we'll see how it goes. I haven't watched this one in a long time, but this is one that I was kind of surprised that people responded to as they did.
Have you ever thought about why people say to put the good lung down? Or why we prone people? And why that works? Have you ever thought about the physiology? I mean, I always just tell people, oh, we just look them on their belly because it opens up the back of their lungs. But have you ever really thought about why it works?
Let's talk about that today. I'm going to tell you about west zones of the lung and VQ matching and why this helps.
It matters a whole lot because we're in the middle of a pulmonary pandemic, and positioning has a huge factor. Sometimes it's the only factor we have to improve oxygenation. So you need to understand how to position your patient. It boils down to chemistry and physics. You want to get the air, represented as a big V for ventilation, into the place where the blood is going round and round, which is represented as a Q. Why? I don't know. For perfusion, VQ matching. Based on what's wrong with your patient, those places are going to match up in different spots in all of us, based on the physiology of what's going on. So find the place where the two match well. If you have diffuse and bilateral lung disease, like an ARDS or COVID, flip them over. Flipping them over uses your anatomy to move things around. Your heart moves to the anterior region. Your abdominal contents are no longer pushing up on your lungs to allow the dorsal surface of the lung to ventilate better. So you reduce atelectasis, but you also then match perfusion, the Q piece, to the anterior surface of the lung, which has less airspace disease. I'll show you some pictures in just a minute. Here's one. This is a CT, and you can see that there is some anterior sparing of the alveoli there.
There's another one with anterior sparing versus this x-ray, which has unilateral badness. Often our COVID patients develop bacterial pneumonias or fungal pneumonias on top of their COVID. So when you start noticing one side worse than the other, proning them may have less benefit, but turning them onto the left side where you have good aeration can get the blood flow down to the good lung. The reason for all of this is represented here schematically. So these are west zones of the lung. Think of this as a construct or an idea, not an actual place. This is going to change based on the position that your patient is in. But this differentiates parts of the lungs based on pulmonary blood flow, which is unequal, secondary to difference in pressure gradients, comparing the alveolar pressure to the arterial pressure to the venual pressure. And in zone 1, you have more ventilation, or the pressure in the alveolar is greater than the arterial pressure. So you have good ventilation and less perfusion. So this is effective dead space. Versus zone 3, where you have more perfusion and less ventilation. So your VQ is going to be low here. Zone 1, you're going to have a high VQ. So the interesting thing about that particular video is the amount of comments that I got about people laughing at or commenting on my use of the term badness, which I use all the time in everyday life because words are hard sometimes. And so you just want to express what's going on. Your patient's super, super sick. It's bad. And you want to stay away from the badness. But people thought that was pretty funny. And I don't know, maybe I'll get some merch made that says avoid badness at all cost. Okay, so the next one I'm going to show you was one that I made from a place of creativity. Like I saw another creator make something like this. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Let me do that. I've made a few videos like that. While my focus on TikTok tends to be educational, just talking head type of videos, I do occasionally make these kind of things, and a lot of times they flop. Some of the times they don't. This one did not flop, and I can't wait to show it to you and to show you some of the comments because this one is one that I'm super, super proud of. Okay, here we go.
Wait, I can do that better. What if it's like...
I love that. Super short, just kind of a fun little video from some pictures I had left over from school that I was kind of proud of. But one of the things that I struggled with going back to school as an older person was having kids that didn't have a mom that was present. And my God, the mom guilt will kill you. And why moms, I feel like, suffer from this way more than dads, I don't know. I'm just going off of my experience. My husband travels for work and he never really has much guilt about missing stuff. I did though. And I agonized a lot about going back to school. So when I posted this and a couple of the comments on here, truly I just cried and cried and cried because it was such a fulfilling moment to me to realize that the sacrifices I made for myself and my family were seen by others in a way that kind of turned out to be quite positive. Like, for example, look at this one from my daughter Paige. That's my mama. Oh my gosh, 91 people like that. I mean, that was probably the best comment I've gotten on any of my posts ever. But there's another one, and let me see if I can find it. Okay, here it is, from Megan, who I believe is a medical resident, if I recall. Yeah, I think so. My mom went back to school when I was a kid, and I think moms who do hard things are the best role models. Oh my gosh, it still makes me tear up. And then there were a couple of people that responded that were also going back to school and how it was so like, I don't know, just reaffirming to hear this from a kid, to hear from the kid's perspective that watching your parent go through a hard time shows them, role models the way for how they can live their life and they can also achieve hard things. And that was sort of an unexpected boon to me finishing school, was what it taught my daughters. Okay, another clinical one got 200,000 views, and it talked about shock and identifying the types of shock. So let's just watch it.
I'm in the mood to talk shock. You want to do some shock talk? Let's talk shock. Because everybody in the ICU's got low blood pressure, and it's not always the sepsis. Not always. A lot of the time, but not always. 9 times out of 10, when I ask a student what their plan is for the low blood pressure, they're going to say, give a bolus. Well, this may or may not be the right answer. And if it is hypovolemic, that's cool. But I'm going to make you run through what all the other causes of shock are and rule those out first. Because there's a lot of things that fall into these shock categories that you don't traditionally think of. Things that we do to people in the ICU. So let's run through the common causes of shock real quick. Number 1, obstructive. So things like a PE, things like a tension pneumo, things like cardiac tamponade. Those things, okay, give fluid, whatever, but you've got to go in and fix the problem or else it's not going to get better. So put a needle in, re-expand the lung. Put a needle in, drain the fluid off the heart. Do something to get that clot out of the way. Distributive shock with multiple subclassifications here. Things like neurogenic shock, typically associated with bradycardia, so give them something to drive that heart rate up. Consider a dopamine infusion. Things like anaphylaxis, so massive vasodilation from the release of all those inflammatory mediators and cytokines, so things like steroids, things like epinephrine, probably some volume too in this setting. Another type of distributive shock is going to be adrenal crisis. So textbook-wise, you're going to be taught things like Addison's disease, Addison's crisis. That's not what we tend to see so much in practice, though, because that's pretty rare. What we tend to see are people who are steroid depleted, people who have been on chronic immunosuppression, either at home or in the hospital, aka all of our COVID patients who are on steroids for a bazillion years. These folks just need some exogenous corticosteroids. But of course, the most common type of distributive shock is going to be your sepsis, which a lot of people have. So you are going to give these people fluids to a point. It's super crucial that you are constantly assessing whether or not they are volume responsive or not, because at a certain point, you're going to tip over those scales and you are going to flood them. Volume overload directly increases mortality, so be careful how much fluid you're giving these people. Cardiogenic. Okay, I want to take just a second to talk about cardiogenic because there are a lot of things that we do to people that put them into this class and things you don't really think of. Typical cardiogenic shock, people are going to think of acute MIs, acute exacerbation of heart failure, cardiomyopathies, things like that. But on top of that, you have anything that's going to reduce your cardiac output. Things like too much beta blockers, things like arrhythmias, AFib, RVR, or bradycardia. Acidosis can do it too. How many of your people are acidotic? People like this are not going to tolerate a lot of volume. So what do you want to do? Fix the underlying problem. Hold the beta blocker, increase the rate, fix the arrhythmia, correct the acidosis, consider some mechanical support. Maybe you need a balloon pump for a little while. Guess what else falls in here, guys? Sedation, opioids. Propofol has a direct correlation to reduction in contractility. Then, and only then, after we've ruled all these things out, can we talk about whether or not the patient's hypovolemic.
So my takeaways from this video are that it's very much a hot topic. It's very much a talked about topic if you work in the critical care realm. So a lot of people responded to it. It's interesting, like how much of your own worst critic you are. I don't know if you are, but I am. And when I watch this back, like the things that stick out to me, the things that distract me from the message that I'm sharing is all the little technical problems, like the audio going in and out, higher and then lower, drives me crazy. And the fact that I had been on a hike the day before and had like a farmer's tan, but was not even aware of it when I recorded it. Look at how white my arms are and how tan my neck is. Really obnoxious. Okay, the next one is going to be going back to like NP professional stuff. I talk a lot about interviewing. So this one is about interview tips. It's the top 3 questions to ask the interviewer. This is probably one of my most like cringe-worthy videos I've ever made. But I'm not going to take it down because it's got 104,000 views. So let's share in the embarrassment here, friends.
All right, I'm about to blow your mind. The 3 sexiest questions you can ask during an interview. People are going to offer you a job before you even leave that room. Who succeeds at this job and why? Número 2. Who fails at this job and why? Número 3. Do you think you can handle it? No. All right, well, here you go. What challenges does this department face, and what will be my role in tackling those challenges? Boom. Job is yours. Now all you got to do is sit down and figure out how much all these brain cells of yours are worth, because you're going to need to sign that paper when they send you over that offer. You're going to want to go to my YouTube channel and watch the video I made.
Y'all. Oh my gosh, I cringe every time I watch it. And that sucker is still being shared and saved all across the TikTok world. And while the information is super helpful, it's cringy. The presentation is cringy. Okay, and here we are to my most viewed video of all time, 237,000 views as of the time of this recording. Again, so surprising to me that this is the one. This is the one that took off. And when I made this video, it was like instantaneous. Like I woke up the next day and there were hundreds of thousands of views. And not only that, but like people were DMing me, people I knew from other hospital systems in other states I'd previously worked with called me. Like it was really interesting, but I think it appeals to the shock value. So let me know what you think about this one.
The hospital is full of like overdoses right now. I don't know. It's just like a downstream effect of COVID. I don't know. Sidebar conversation maybe, but most of it's run of the mill stuff, but you get the occasional weird stuff. Like in my career as an NP, I've seen 3 calcium channel blocker overdoses. And I don't know if you've ever taken care of this kind of patient before or not, but you won't forget them. They definitely stick out in your mind because they are hard to manage. So I wanted to just talk about that for a minute because, you know, I love the weird stuff. So calcium channel blockers basically come in 2 classes, dihydropyridines and non-dihydropyridines. And it's important to know which of the 2 it is because they're just a little bit different. Dihydropyridines are your dipines, your nifedipines, your amlodipines. That's all I've ever seen overdosed. But there's also your non-dihydropyridines, which is your verapamil and your cardizem. And they have names for those classes, but I can't pronounce them because I can't say medical words.
So true. Still
your
true.
Dihydropyridines are going to have more of the vasodilatory effect and less so of the myocardial suppression effect until you get to toxic levels. When you get to supermassive toxic levels, then they both kind of equilibrate out. So what does that lead to? Massive shock. Massive cardiogenic and distributive shock. Shock, 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 shock.
God, I'm dramatic.
Well, what's weird is that kind of unlike a beta blocker overdose, these people don't seem to have as much of the delirium and the lethargy. So they're like wide awake and talking to you, maybe slurring their words a little bit, but they don't look like people who are in like end organ failure. It's weird. How do you handle it? Well, you can give calcium, right? You can give calcium. But if you blocked all the channels, what's the point of adding a ton of calcium in there? So it's suboptimal treatment. But you do give them some calcium. But what I really like, I mean, you're going to put them on pressors, right? Obviously, these people are going to be on a buttload of pressors. So when they're on a buttload of pressors and they're this level of sick, you're going to want to consider a high-dose insulin infusion. And I mean high dose, like super nervous, butt puckering high doses of insulin. Like it's 1 to 10 units per kg per hour. So for a 70 kg person, you're talking about 70 to 700 units per hour of insulin. And that's for a pretty small person. So obviously this is incredibly labor intensive for the nurse. They're going to have to check sugars every 15 minutes, potassiums every hour. You're probably going to put them on a you're going to put them on a dextrose infusion. Let's just say that. But interestingly, calcium channel blockers will increase your blood sugar. So it's not quite as much as you'd think it would be. But anyways, you put them on this high dose insulin drip, and depending on if they took extended release or not, over a day or so, you'll start to see them slowly come down on their pressors, and then you'll come down off the insulin drip. But dang, if they aren't super sick for a long period of time and with a lot of people in the room taking care of them.
So yeah, this video was super popular, and I think it's because of that. Like, not many people have seen this thing in real life, and those that have still have PTSD from it, and they're like, yep, I remember that patient. I've had a couple, and yeah, you won't forget them. So that's all the videos I have to share with you today. Obviously, there's a lot more on my TikTok channel if you want to go there and watch that. Like I said, I tend to talk mostly about academic stuff on here, although I do have a lot of interview stuff as well, because that's a topic that I talk about a lot. So thank you for joining me today. If you are interested in more, I would love it if you would go check out my website at breenp.com. That's BREENP.com. I am a mentor. I offer one-on-one. I offer mock interviews. I have recently started some coaching packages which walk you through job attainment as well as contract negotiation and all that kind of thing. That whole process of acquiring your first job and commanding your worth. And I also have a coaching package that is kind of more like tutoring, weekly one-on-one Zooms where we target exactly what your issue is, whether you are a nurse or a new grad, newly onboarding NP and struggling. So if you are interested in that, I would love for you to go check it out. I am still seeking one candidate for each package to get deep discounts if they agree to be a part of marketing. So thanks for joining again today, and I hope that y'all have a wonderful week.